Content warning. On this podcast, we discuss sensitive issues, including, but not limited to, swearing, tasteless jokes, situations of a sexual nature, and drug use. This podcast is not intended for children. Welcome to BiblioWrecks, where we read the worst stories the world has to offer. I'm Bam Bam.
And I'm Bugs. And today we are doing The Inmate by Freida McFadden.
We're going to jail, where we sent all those bad books, and now they're going to shiv us in our kidneys. Like we deserve.
Go straight to jail. Directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not get $200.
So what's this? We're following a prisoner, I guess.
No.
Oh.
And I did not expect to do this book for the podcast. This is a surprise.
So you're expecting this one to be good?
Yes. I read this book for pleasure as a break from BiblioWrecks.
And it turned out to not. Yeah.
I was cleaning my son's room, and I hadn't done a deep clean in over a year. Mm-hmm. And I needed something chill. And it was a thriller that was available now on the library app. Mm-hmm. I was like, The Inmate. Oh, sure, it's a thriller, fast-paced. I love those when I'm cleaning. Sounds great.
Keeps you amped.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes I just love a dumb thriller. Mm-hmm. You have a couple twists, they survive, it's a close call, whew, the end. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of get that little rush. It's that little ride. Yeah. Love me a good thriller. That's what this was until 85% of the way through the book. And then it goes hard off the rails. Oh. And I got pissed. And I was like, bad book, bad.
Okay. You got my attention.
Yeah. Brooke is our protagonist and narrator. She is a nurse practitioner showing up for her first day at work at this prison. It makes you think that she's a prisoner. And then immediately, no, she's just working here.
Oh, okay.
They try to set you up with, you know.
I imagine that kind of character, like it's a female nurse practitioner.
She is, and a nurse practitioner is somewhere in between, like an LPN and a MD. Mm-hmm. You have more education. You can write prescriptions. You can do like small in-office, like kind of not surgeries, but like procedures. Mm-hmm. You can be somebody's primary care physician type person, but you're not licensed as an MD.
Right. So as a woman working in a prison with inmates, I imagine that's got to make the character feel like kind of vulnerable.
She does feel vulnerable, and this is a men's maximum security prison. She's showing up. She has not been told anything about her job.
Oh, that's
She hasn't met her supervisor.
That's super not how that's supposed to go.
She doesn't know what clothes to wear. They fuss at her for wearing pumps instead of flats.
Yep, already. Nope. Anyone who's going into the prison system to do a job, you go through like seminar after seminar.
And she is utterly clueless and has no idea what to expect, or even if she will be required to care for all of the inmates, or only some.
So she's just going in
completely blind. We are too.
That's not okay. That's not okay to do to a person that's working in... Okay.
Very odd.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about prison, but even to me, it felt very odd.
Mm-hmm. Well, I imagine it's just for the purpose, it's more for the purpose of getting the audience into that position than this character, I guess.
Also, I don't think the author did a lot of research on what working for a prison would entail. Mm-hmm. And I think this was just... Let's just move on because you'll see. Okay. It's coming very soon.
Yeah.
She's a 28-year-old single mom of a 10-year-old son. Obviously, she had her kid when she was 18. Mm-hmm. She just moved back to her childhood town after her parents died in a car accident and left her their house.
Oh, no. Is she a DC superhero?
No. So
or
that's
a Disney
the setup
princess. Sorry.
And why she had to get this job. She has to have a job because she's moving back to this town, and this is the only job she could find.
Right.
So it's kind of like her choice to move here, but also she's kind of dealing with a bad hand.
She's
Weirdly.
feeling very obligated to
Right.
come back.
Yeah. She could only get one job within 60 minutes of Raker, New York, the town that this is, as a nurse practitioner, because every place she called or tried to send her resume said that they had heard bad rumors about her as a nurse practitioner and no one would hire her.
Huh.
She got blackballed in this town before she even showed up.
That's weird.
Very weird.
What did anyone say what she did, or
No?
is that
just
something that's revealed later on?
Yeah.
Okay.
She can't believe she got the job at the prison
Ah, yes. What luxury.
because she helped put one of the inmates there, Shane Nelson,
Oh, no.
father of her 10-year-old son,
Nope.
into prison
That's
10 years ago.
That's not okay. That's a conflict of interest. You shouldn't be working there at all.
So she's like, I was a minor at the time of that incident, but the entire trial was in this town. And local kids were killed, and she was the prime witness, and he is local and went to this jail. But nobody knew she was going to work. No one who hired her knew that she was the one who'd put Shane Nelson into prison,
Right.
and she's now going to work in the prison where he's a prisoner.
Yeah, everyone where this was big news for like the last 10 years.
10
no
years
one
is
thinks
not
that's
a long
bad
time.
idea. Yeah.
In a small town gossip cycle, that is not long.
Yeah.
So the premise of the book is faulty. The premise is she gets this job despite having intimate relationship with this man and then putting him in prison for what he did to her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the big, what did he do to her? That's like the big thing through the whole book that we have to build up to and tell you finally what at the end, what happened. that
Okay.
night. So we have a lot of flashbacks and then a lot of flash forwards. On her first day of work, she meets the nurse Dorothy, who is a one-dimensional evil nurse who hates the prisoners.
Ah.
She will not keep lidocaine in stock. She will not give anyone pain meds. She just hates them. She's just mean and bitchy. Me.
Yeah. There's always someone at a job like that.
She tells Brooke that there's 3 rules. Don't give any personal information to the inmates. Do not give them narcotics. And keep yourself to yourself, basically.
Solid. Yeah.
You don't get into relationships with the inmates. You don't give them personal information. Just be completely professional and detached.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking like, oh yeah, that's kind of a trope that there's always like this bitch head nurse or something. But at the same time, she is working in a prison. You kind of got to be like a hard ass if you're going to be working around prisoners.
Right.
And security or, yeah, like guards and stuff that
Yeah.
are, they're usually dicks too, I'm sure.
Yeah, the only prison guard we meet is also the same way. And he just hates the prisoners.
Yeah, so I imagine you kind of got to have like a little bit of an edge if you're working in this for any length of time.
reason she's written so negatively, though, is to highlight how kind Brooke is in comparison. And Brooke is brand new and doesn't know any of these guys. So she's like, we need to get therapeutic mattress for this guy who's a paraplegic and has an ulcer. He's going to need surgery if this isn't dealt with. And Dorothy's like, this will bankrupt the prison. And it's like, this isn't coming out of your paycheck, man. But it's just this, we're trying to show Brooke as a nice person.
Hasn't been
And
jaded
in
by
order
the
to
system.
do that, Dorothy has to be awful. Because Brooke is just a normal nurse practitioner.
Gotcha.
She's not special or extra nice to anyone. She's just normal.
Yeah.
She meets the correctional officer, Marcus Hunt. He hates the inmates. Brooke sympathizes with the inmates, tries to get that paraplegic man a mattress because she's like, their mattresses are really thin. He's a paraplegic. He's going to be really ill if this ulcer isn't dealt with on his lower back.
Yeah, like giving him basic care.
Yes. She's saying we need basic care. We need lidocaine if they need stitches and a mattress for this paraplegic man. And Dorothy throws a tantrum and is like, are you trying to bankrupt us? You don't give them anything. They don't deserve Tylenol. Like, this woman is written so
horrible.
So horrible. Like, it just really narrow, one-dimensional. Back to the day that put Shane in prison. Brooke and Shane are 17 and dating. Tim is the neighbor who is in love with her, but friend-zoned. So we kind of have the love triangle.
The scorned friend and the current boyfriend.
Right. Shane is the hot football player, and Tim is the nerdy, but now handsome neighbor.
Played WoW until he got hot.
Yes. Brooke is going to an overnight party at Shane's house, and Pity invites Tim. She doesn't know he's in love with her because she is utterly clueless.
Right.
This character is utterly clueless.
I hate that trope. I really... Like, it's so clear what all these characters' intentions are towards each other, like, 99% of the time. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine.
It's really funny because the flashbacks are narrated by 17-year-old Brooke, who is utterly clueless.
Okay.
Not by modern day, knows a little bit better Brooke.
Right.
And so going back in time, you can tell it's kind of an unreliable narrator because she's ditzy, clueless, and is not paying attention to anything.
Yeah, doesn't really know what's going on, which is,
Right.
yeah, that's pretty fair for a 17-year-old.
Yeah, it's just, you'll see. As we go along, you'll just see. She can't understand why everyone dislikes Shane, and she decides it must be because he's poor. His car came from the junkyard, and he fixed it up himself. His farmhouse is way out in the country and fallen apart, and everyone's like, he's a bully. And she's like, but he's so loving to me. And that is 17-year-old girl typical.
That's teen logic for sure.
But it comes back later.
Okay.
Brooke, Tim, and their friends, Kayla, Chelsea, and Brandon, all drive out to Shane's house for the sleepover because Shane's mom is out of town. She's a single mom, and so Shane is doing a party at his house where they're all going to booze and hang out.
Right. As you do.
17-year-old stuff. Yeah. Flash forward back to present day. Brooke's son is named Josh, and he's starting at his new school because they just moved to town. His babysitter is named Marge, who is a sweet as sugar, saccharine sweet grandma who bakes cookies, retiree.
Oh.
And we make a point of how this was the only babysitter that Brooke could afford in the area, and so she had to take her.
Had to.
Had
Even though
to.
she's really, really nice.
Right. This was, oh, I'm so lucky to have her. Oh, I hope she doesn't leave me. Oh, I couldn't afford anyone else. But she doesn't pay for housing because she inherited this house.
Oh.
And she's working as a nurse practitioner in the prison system, which I would imagine pays pretty good since they were so desperate.
I imagine that's a government job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how she could be hurting that bad for money.
Yeah, that's weird.
She's not spending money on cars. She's not paying off student loans that we even hear of. Her parents helped her pay for school.
Also, this kid's 10, right?
He's 10.
Like, he can, I don't know, like Boy Scouts? What time of year is this?
I think they're moving in the summer. I think they start right before the school year starts.
Yeah, send the kid to camp.
But it's just, Margie is perfect, and she cooks them dinner every night when Brooke gets home, and she's just perfect.
Yeah.
Josh loves her. She's perfect.
Yeah.
She drops him off at school, and surprise, Tim, her childhood neighbor, is the vice principal. She lets him believe that Josh is starting kindergarten because if he knows that Josh is 10 years old, he's going to know Shane is the dad. And she wants to put that off as long as possible.
That's weird.
Despite him being the vice principal and probably meeting this kid in the school.
Right. Like,
And
he
knowing
could put
that's
that
the same-
together.
Yes.
Unless he's an idiot.
There's also a one-off comment about how she didn't expect to run into people she knew.
What? You're back in your hometown,
Your
dude.
childhood town you lived your entire life in until you turned 18.
That's why a lot of people won't go back, is they don't want to see those people again.
And she is shocked every time she meets someone in town that she knows.
That's dumb. That's really dumb.
It's really, really weird.
Like, oh my God, you're still here.
Yeah. And you have a job? What?
Wow.
You're grown up.
It's almost like people mature and do things when I'm not looking at them.
Of course, he's still in love with her all these years later. He hasn't moved on. He's single. He asks her out for coffee. And she's like, maybe later. Bye. At work, Shane is injured and brought to the nurse's office. Oh, dear. She didn't realize she would have to treat everyone in the whole prison. And now I have to face the man who almost choked me to death 10 years ago.
That's really stupid.
Oh, dear.
It's really stupid.
She assumed he would never need a checkup, never get sick, never get injured, and she just could never have to see him in the prison where he lives.
That's such a weird thing to assume.
He asks her about her family, and she admits to having a son.
You didn't have to.
She could have just lied.
Yeah, just don't say anything.
Just don't say anything.
Especially if you don't want him to have, like, any, I don't know, like, parental rights or anything like that.
He doesn't know he has a son.
Right.
She has
Which is
kept
also
this
kind
from
of
him.
fucked up. But at the same time, if he did attack her, I understand. But
right. It's like, what?
yeah, that would have to be, like, a concerted effort. Like, you would have to do that on purpose.
It was on purpose by her parents. To hide her pregnancy and send her away where no one knew she was pregnant.
Okay, so she was just kind of oblivious to all this.
Pretty much. That's what it feels like. Her parents directed everything until just now.
So she's just not... She just really isn't aware of all these things and doesn't have him in her life. She sounds like a real fucking airhead.
She is. Really, really is. And if I knew I was going to be in the same system as someone who attacked me, I would never go there.
Right.
Ever. And so she gets these, like, little flashbacks and fears, and then she has to, like, stitch him up and take care of him. And it's like, oh, God, I have to touch him. Oh. It's like, you're a nurse. This is your job.
Right.
So she had already admitted to someone else that she was unmarried. So he knows that. And now she admits to having a son and tells Shane that her son is 5. So she's just going along with the lie that her son is 5 to Shane and Tim at the moment.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense for Tim if he's the principal.
Right.
You can have presumably these two guys don't talk. You can tell 2 different lies.
Right. But I guess in her head, she's just trying to make it work in her head.
I think she just can't keep up very good with her lies.
She has to give stitches to Shane, and she goes to get lidocaine to stitch him up, and there's none. And Shane is like, don't worry about it. It's fine. There's never lidocaine. And she's like, oh, you poor baby.
Oh my God. Okay. Can I do a prediction?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Is it going to turn into, is it going to be redeeming...
Shane?
Yeah, is it going to be redeeming Shane and Tim is actually the one who did the bad thing or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Very obvious, even in the first frickin' 3 chapters.
Right.
And he is like, Brooke, I know you think I tried to kill you. I would never do that. Brooke, I loved you.
Was she not part of the trial?
She was the one whose testimony put him in prison.
Right.
And he, I guess, never had a one-on-one, quiet, alone conversation with her. And this is their first chance because no one knows that these people have a relationship, and the prison guard is just standing outside of the clinic. So she's there alone with him, and he does this whisper plea, I would have never hurt you, Brooke. And she's like, ooh.
Wouldn't he have been embittered by that point? Like after 10 years in prison?
At first he looks angry, and then he just looks sad. And she's surprised that he's not trying to kill her. Her expectation is he's gonna, like, immediately strangle her.
Then why would you go to that job if that's your expectation?
And the fact that he doesn't proves to her he's a good guy.
No, it doesn't. He's in prison. That's kind of the thing in prison, where you can't do the things you want to do. If he wants to choke her out, then there's very direct repercussions for him to do that. Like outside, he could probably get away with that, but he probably can't get away with it anywhere near as easy in prison.
Brooke admits to herself that she didn't actually see who tried to kill her.
What?
but she remembered the smell of his sandalwood aftershave.
Oh my god. So she's gonna smell sandalwood on fucking Tim later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
So you can see why this is an unreliable narrator from her as a child and her as an adult.
Yeah, because she's stupid in both.
Because as an adult, we're having to remember the past, but she keeps changing her mind about what actually happened.
Okay, she's
and then we would think that the flashback would show us the truth, but it's narrated by unreliable 17-year-old Brooke.
Right.
So we can't establish that what happened then is accurate either.
Or for it to be, like, written ambiguously enough.
Right.
That you could take it either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We flash back. At Shane's house, they all go in, but Tim didn't bring a bag. And everyone's like, Tim, why are you so weird?
Tim, why do you do this, man?
Yeah. He and Shane have a whisper conversation, and no one heard what they said to each other. There's no cell service because Shane lives out in the middle of nowhere. But Shane tells them there's a house phone, and it's fine. They drink booze, eat pizza, and play Never Have I Ever.
That's so fucking lame.
The only reason they play it is so that it can reveal plot points. It's revealed...
It's even lamer than usual.
It's revealed that Shane and Brandon beat up a kid named Marcus until he had to be hospitalized, and that Tim dated a girl named Tracy Gifford who had been murdered that summer.
Oh, God.
He never told the police that he dated her, and he changes the subject.
Yeah. None of you should be friends with him after he says that.
Yeah.
That's a fucked up thing.
He acts really suspicious about
that. That is really weird to say. Like, even as a joke.
But also, Shane is the one who says, never have I ever dated a dead girl. And Tim is the one who has to drink. So Shane knew Tim dated Tracy Gifford.
What?
And no one knows how Shane knew this. And Tim hadn't told anyone. So it's like, you guys are freaking weird.
It's fucking weird.
This is weird.
Also making fun of a dude for his dead girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So Shane is obviously a prick.
Yeah.
He's beat up a kid that so bad he was hospitalized.
Yeah.
And then now he's bringing up that this guy's girlfriend got murdered.
Yeah, not a redeeming sounding character at all.
We flash forward to present day. Tim got Brooke's cell number from the parent directory at the school.
That doesn't sound like something you should be able to do.
And asks her to go on a date.
Oh, God, that's really inappropriate.
Jay, is that breaking the rules that a vice principal went through the parent directory and got a phone number and uses that to ask for a date?
It's probably not morally correct.
He reports it is not morally correct.
Yeah, I'll accept that. Sounds real fucked up, actually.
Marge is like, yes, you must go on a date. Josh needs a father. And it's like, the whole book, I'm only gonna, I don't even write it in my notes. But in the book, over and over, Josh needs a father. You need to get him a father.
Oh, so
he is lacking a father. And she's like, I tried to be mother and father, and I failed. And it's like, no, you're doing fine. This kid has no behavioral problems.
Yeah.
He's gotten beat up at school for being a bastard. People called him bastard and beat him up. But that's not him being a bad kid. That's him being victimized.
Right.
And it's like, it's my fault. He's a bastard. And
Also,
it's like,
full-time
what is wrong
job?
with you?
Yeah.
You're in New York City and your kid's getting beat up for being fatherless.
That's
This
normal.
sounds normal. And probably lots of other kids in the school.
It's not even about being a bastard.
No.
It's just something.
It's just a name to
that's
call
all
him.
that's required.
So it's very much the reason she has to pursue Tim is Josh needs a father. And that is like her motivation for going on a date with him.
That's not a good reason to go on a date with somebody.
Right. And Marge is just, you should go on a date. You should, da da da. And she's just being the old lady busybody of he's got a big nose and it'll be fun tonight. Like it's just weird.
Big nose. What does that
You
mean?
haven't heard that one?
No. So like big nose, big dick or something?
Yes, that's what that means.
Yeah, okay.
She doesn't
Never
say
heard
that
that
exactly, but she insinuates that
Right.
all they need is Josh needs a dad and she needs a dick. That's what Marge is basically saying. Randomly, this woman named Estelle stops by and is throwing a tantrum that Brooke didn't sell the house. Because Estelle is a realtor and Brooke's parents set aside money to pay her for the realtor fees to sell this house. And Brooke is like, no, I don't have to sell this house. It's mine. Bye. And it sets up this, like...
I don't think that realtors are allowed to, like, harass you for not selling your house. That's weird.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
And it also is like you're disobeying your parents' wishes by living in this house.
Fucking so?
And it's like they could have just sold the house and moved into a rental.
Right. Like, if they wanted it to be sold, they could have sold it.
Yeah.
Why involve your daughter in it if you don't want her to have complete control?
To live in this house. Mm-hmm. Don't have the house.
Yeah.
Or write her out of the will.
Right.
Or write in the stipulation this house must be sold and proceeds given to daughter. So it's just to set up this, like, it allows us to have, oh yeah, nobody actually knows how much I hate my parents and how much they hated me. I'm not going to talk about it. And it's like her and her parents became estranged. I wrote about it later in the book. It doesn't matter. Her parents told her she was never ever allowed to come back to Raker after giving birth to Josh.
Then why'd you leave the house to her? That's fucking dumb.
They sent her money, sent her to live at an aunt's house, and said, you must never return to this town.
You should have reflected that in your will. That's dumb. They're just dumb.
Her son
I
turns
see where
5.
she gets it.
Yes. Her son turns 5, and she's like, and she finishes school. She gets a good job. She doesn't have to take their checks every month to pay rent anymore. Mm-hmm. And she says, if you don't let me come home and visit you with my son, we're not going to visit anymore at all. Because she's like, this is super dumb. She believes that they're ashamed of her for having a child out of wedlock.
Oh.
And they're ashamed that the father of the son
Is in prison.
is Shane.
Yeah.
Who's in prison for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Her father's like, no, we're not ashamed of you, but you must never come back. And she's like, fine, fuck off, and never talks to them again.
Yeah,
and that's
fair.
like, yeah, this is...
They could also just come visit her.
That's what they
something.
had been doing.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, you have to let me come home to my hometown. You can't stop me from coming. And they're like...
Yeah, they can't.
And so she just is like, fine, we won't talk or visit anymore. And she just returns all their letters. So it's a kind of odd estrangement. I've never heard of anyone who was estranged from their parents for this kind of scenario.
Yeah, it's really contrived.
It's very contrived.
It's literally just structured for the story to work. Like, the story doesn't work if it's
like
not
we had
this
to
way.
have a reason to exile her to New York City,
Yeah.
and now she's allowed to return because they're dead. It's contrived, but that's the entire relationship backstory. A couple times her mom was kind of controlling, and they told her never ever date Shane, so she had to do it behind their backs. And so it's like they had a thing against him personally.
Right.
And so that's what also made her more interested in dating him, because they specifically forbade him.
Right.
They didn't forbade anyone else.
Yeah, makes sense
So.
for teenagers.
Yeah. Tim comes and picks up Brooke to go to a bar and have that drink, have their date. They don't see Josh, so whew, crisis averted at the moment.
Yeah. Just gonna keep having your kid be hid from this guy you're planning to this is alright. Even if it was going to be a relationship, this is not setting off at a good start.
At this time, she's like, I don't want to date him. I don't want to date anyone. I don't have time.
Then
But she agreed to go on the date with him.
Right.
And she is admiring how handsome he is. And, oh, he's successful. And, oh, nice in those shirts. So it's like,
school
will she,
principal,
won't
I
she?
guess. Yeah.
Just over and over. He admits to trying to find her on social media, but she hadn't been on social media at all because that was the other thing her parents forbade her from ever doing. She's 18 and they
What?
say you're never allowed to be on social media. Never let anyone take your picture. Never, ever, ever be on Facebook or Instagram or anything.
Why?
And she's like, well, I didn't want it anyway, so that's whatever.
That's impossible.
I know that her son's picture was never on the Facebook page of some school,
Right.
school's middle school pageant.
Why didn't they want her on social media if the parents thought that Shane was the murderer?
They hid her pregnancy from everyone in town, and if she was on social media, they could see that she had a kid.
Okay, so they are ashamed of her.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
So it really doesn't matter that it's Shane or that he's in prison. It's that she has a kid that... Yeah, okay.
The waitress comes by and is like all over Tim and like, bye, Timmy, and like trying to get him to buy food. Ignores her. And she's like, are you dating her? He's like, oh, we only went on a couple of dates, but she got back with her boyfriend, so
I
that's
could
whatever.
murder her. I just
Kelly-
imagine he's just sitting there playing with a rope.
He's got knives that he's just flipping on his fingers. The waitress, Kelly, was on the cheerleader team, and so that's how Brooke recognizes her. And Tim is the perfect gentleman, and it's kind of written in a sinister way. Like, his behavior is perfect the entire book. He is the perfect gentleman. She says no. He says, okay, good night, and he leaves. She's like, I don't want to date right now. And he's like, okay, we'll just be friends. Bye. Like, he does everything correct.
No red flags or
There's
anything.
no red flags.
And he paid 25% as a tip like an asshole.
He complimented her on the food. So we've established that Shane is in prison and saying it wasn't him, it was Tim. Tim is not in prison and is saying, I hope you never have to see Shane while you're there because he stabbed me in the gut. Shane is the devil. So they both hate each other, and they both want her affection. We have a love triangle despite one being in prison, and she's going back and forth between them, getting swayed by their opinions only when she's in their sphere of influence. It feels like when she's with them, she agrees with them, and then she goes to the other one and agrees with him. And it's like, in her brain,
She doesn't have her own opinions.
She does not have her own opinion.
This is the dumbest love triangle I think I've heard of.
She does start to question her memory of that night.
Only now?
Only now.
Like, that's gotta be
10
like...
years later.
That's like a traumatic event. That's gotta be like the worst night of your life, right?
She has nightmares all the time about it.
And you don't sit and reflect on it?
She remembers the necklace biting into her neck. And she was firm enough in her memory on the stand that the jury believed her and convicted Shane for life in prison. She still hates and fears Shane, but she's starting to feel sympathetic. And, like, maybe he isn't that evil.
That doesn't mean you gotta fuck him. You don't have to get with this guy just because you think he's not the hugest asshole, you know?
Right. It's really weird.
Like, it's not a binary. You could go for somebody else that doesn't make you uncomfortable.
The other part of it is the guard also hates Shane personally, and he shackles him with his hands and his feet. So he just always comes in hang-dogged, and Brooke is like, God, you're being awful extra mean to this guy.
Oh, wow, you're treating this prisoner like a prisoner. What a monster. I mean, prison guards aren't great, so I don't want to defend them either.
No. It's kind of like everyone sucks here, you know?
Everyone does
On
suck
the Am
here.
I the Asshole, everyone sucks here except for Josh. Brooke goes shopping for groceries and runs into Kelly from the bar. Kelly tells her to back off, basically, and she's like... feels a little jealous. Like, Brooke feels jealous.
Yeah.
And then Kelly's like, how could you do that to Shane 10 years ago? You got the wrong guy in prison.
How the fuck did she know?
And apparently, and Brooke admits to herself that half of the town was furious with her for testifying that it was Shane who tried to kill her with her snowflake charm necklace.
What? Snowflake charm necklace?
The night
Tim tried
of,
to strangle her with a snowflake.
Shane is currently the one who
Right.
did this.
Yeah.
The story is, she came through a room and tripped, and someone behind her, she had this little tiny necklace on with a little tiny snowflake charm. Okay. Someone grabbed the chain and used it to choke her.
Huh.
Have you ever known a chain that was used for jewelry that was strong enough to withstand being pulled on by a big guy?
Like, that's usually a thing in movies where, like, someone wants to get rid of their chain or they're, like, indignant about it. They'll just, like, pop it off.
Grab it and it just pops.
Right.
Yes. Chains on little kids' necklaces are not And this was a necklace Tim bought her when she was like 6. Like, this was a little tiny kid necklace that little tiny Tim went to the store and bought for her. This is not, galvanized steel.
Yeah. That is weird.
But it's kind of like, at the end of the night, the only survivors are Tim, Shane, and Brooke. Shane says it was Tim. Tim says it was Shane. Brooke split the vote and said it was Shane. Because that's how the justice system works, Bam.
She's just like, it's got to be one of them. So
And
I'll
also,
just pick one, I guess.
if half the town thought that she was wrong for testifying against
Well,
Shane,
the other half would have thought she was wrong if she picked Tim.
right. So I would think the half that thought Tim was the one who did it wouldn't be happy that he's now the vice principal caring for their children.
Yeah. Like, do you think, like, just being involved in a situation like that would be enough of a black mark to keep you out of that? Yeah.
On your character in this town that's fairly small. Everyone knows everyone. At work, Brooke has to take Shane's stitches out. He again tells her that it wasn't him, it was Tim. She tells him to stand up to the bullies the way her son does, which confuses him because he thinks Josh is 5. Hunt comes in to get Shane and jerks on him, but he's shackled, so he falls and hits his head on a desk and gets a concussion.
So now he's got to turn around and come right back in.
Yes. No, she actually sends him to the infirmary, so she has to check on him morning and evening at the infirmary.
Oh my God.
And he gets to lay there, and she's like, do you need pain meds? And he's like, no, I'm fine. She's like, how did anyone think he's drug seeking? He's refusing Tylenol.
Because Tylenol doesn't get you fucking high, you fucking airhead motherfucker.
Well, in his, Dorothy has said all of the prisoners are drug seeking and not to give them narcotics unless they've, like, broken an arm. And in his chart, the previous nurse practitioner wrote Shane is manipulative. And she's like, how is he manipulative? He's just a poor, pitiful, widow guy.
Oh, he's just a little feller.
He's just a little fella.
Just committed one potential murder. It's fine.
So she's still questioning her memory of that night. And Shane is still like, it wasn't me. I loved you. Oh, and it's like,
I didn't do it, I promise.
Bizarre. We flash back to that night. Everyone is drunk. They pair off. It's Brandon and Chelsea are a couple. Shane and Brooke are a couple. And they brought along Kayla for Tim to fuck.
Okay.
I guess that's how teen parties work. I never went to
Honestly,
one.
it kind of is sometimes,
But
though.
Kayla had the hots for him, so she was
that's
excited
fine
about
then.
it, and Tim
Yeah.
was kind of meh. So I don't know if they had sex or it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, she died, so.
Yeah. Brooke and Shane climb into bed and both confess to being virgins. They both say, I love you, and they have sex.
Cool. Oh, so she got pregnant, like, the first time she had sex.
With him. And I thought a rape was the cause of the prison term and the baby and the trauma. But now it's revealed they had consensual loving sex.
Right.
So it's like, oh, like they just spoon feed you.
So what was the charge? Like, it was... Like, it's not manslaughter. Well, I guess the other kid's getting murdered.
Yeah, as we go through the book, it's revealed how these kids die.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's like, oh, why is he in prison?
Right.
What has happened? Like, we just keep getting these vagues. That night, everything changed. Moving on.
Yeah, I hate that. It just keeps, like...
I usually enjoy it because I like, oh, what did happen? Oh, I need to listen to the next chapter to find out. Like sometimes when I'm just in that mood, I just love getting that little tiny dose of story, and then we flip back and we come back again. And for me, it just feeds that little thrill, and it is usually something in the background when I'm cleaning.
I like it when it's done well.
This one wasn't done well.
Right. In a lot of cases, it's just like, just fucking tell me, stop doing it like this.
Brooke comes back into work, and she's worried that she made the wrong call about observation instead of a CT scan because he had a concussion, and she's like, and he's like laying there asleep, and she's like, oh God, he's dead.
Oh, he's in a coma.
Yeah, and he's fine. But she realizes she's concerned about him not just because he's a patient.
Okay,
She's
you can just be concerned about someone and not be attracted to them. Just because you're concerned, just because you don't want him to die, or you're just not totally apathetic to his existence, doesn't mean that you're attracted to him.
She's hated him for so long and now feeling care for him.
That doesn't
And it's
just
really disorienting to her. And it feels like the author screwing with her.
right.
It feels
She's
like
getting-
the author is just screwing with this character.
She's like, you're feeling these two things.
And the character's like, wait, what? This is not right.
I'm so confused.
It is.
I smell burnt toast.
Shane jokes about loping tacos because at one point as teenage boyfriend, girlfriend, she texted, I lope ice cream. And that became their word for love until that night when they were having sex. And he said the real love word, not lope. And that's a bit through most of the book that I spared you from. Over and over.
It's so cute.
And he's saying, I lope tacos to remind her of that time they were dating and how sweet and cute he was back then.
That's still gross.
On the way home.
That's still being manipulative. Like, you know
Yes.
that's going to stir up feelings in her.
Yes.
Which I don't know what he's trying to do. Like, is he trying to get back with her? Is he trying to get out of prison?
Because what kind of relationship could you even have?
Right.
Yeah. On the way home, she's walking to her car, and Hunt, the prison guard, scares the bejesus out of her. Like, he just pops out of nowhere, and she's like, ah! And he is like, I gotta talk to you. I gotta talk to you, Brooke.
Oh, God.
And she's like, oh, you didn't mean to scare me. Holy cow, you jumped out of nowhere. And he's like, Shane is manipulative, and he did really bad things to get himself locked up. She claims she hasn't seen any manipulation, and he says it's because Shane is manipulating her.
You never get in a land tour with the Sicilian.
He says Shane is why the previous nurse practitioner lost her job and might go to prison. And he wants to take her out for a drink and date her. And she's like, no thanks.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. That is, I don't know. Like, did the previous nurse practitioner have sex with Shane and that's why she lost her job?
Eventually, we find out she was accused of selling narcotics to the prisoners, and Shane's the one who accused her. And so Shane got her fired, like on
Okay.
purpose.
Gotcha.
And supposedly, I guess, this prison guard knew it wasn't true and knows Shane did it. And that's part of why he dislikes him. Mm-hmm. Or is trying to warn her because he thinks that the same thing is going to happen with her. Some kind of manipulation, or maybe he actually is trying to get pills out of her. Because at this point, supposedly, Marcus, or Hunt, the correctional
Security guard.
officer, he doesn't know the relationship between Shane and Brooke. It's still a secret.
Oh, that's, still weird.
But apparently Hunt wants to get in her pants, and so he's very aggressive, but she's finally able to, like, shoo him away. One thing I don't think I mentioned earlier is that her parents really, really, really tried to get her to get an abortion.
Oh.
They pushed hard for an abortion and were furious that she wanted to keep the baby. And that was all she felt. She didn't care about Shane anymore. She hated him. But she just felt, I just want this baby. I
that's
love this
fine.
baby and I want this baby.
Yeah, you shouldn't be
And that's fine.
getting bullied into getting an abortion
And
if you
her
don't want
parents
one.
were like, this is a mistake, Brooke. This is such a big mistake. You should not keep this baby.
Just kept
This is
repeating that
bad."
and never giving her, like, anything reasonable.
Yep. Yep. Your daughter would be so traumatized.
Yeah.
After nearly getting killed, getting pregnant that night, she's finishing up high school, and you're just acting this really weird way about it.
Yeah, you're like, you have to cut ties completely with this place that you've lived
And
your
it
entire
seemed
life.
like if she'd had the abortion, they would have let her stay. And because she kept the baby, they made her leave.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's real fucked up.
Which is why she's like, if you won't let me visit, I don't want to have anything to do with you because you're obviously ashamed of my son and you hate me.
Yeah.
And she even points out about how Marge is so much kinder and sweeter with her son than her mom ever was.
Yeah.
Her mom and her dad were just cool toward him. Like, not cold and mean, but just disinterested.
Yeah.
They would send her money, and, like, that was it. So it's like, God, these guys just really hated Shane.
Yeah.
Even though he's
And
in
they're
prison.
they're taking it out on their daughter.
Yeah, and their grandson.
Yeah. Yeah, that motivation just doesn't make any sense,
It does not at all. You know who else who is gonna kick you out of town and drive you far away?
You?
Yeah, buddy. If you have that baby, I will disown you and kick you out of here.
Oh no, my baby! What will I tell my parents? Hello, Bad Book Loving friends. Just updating our socials. We're on Blue Sky now at bugs-bibliorex.bsky.social. We have a Substack at Bugs and Books, and the profile name is Bugs at BiblioWrecks. And of course, our website, BiblioWrecks.com. Drop us a message and check out the content that Bugs works on. She's really good at the social stuff. And let's get back to that bad book.
And we're back because you got that abortion.
Yeah, I've been scraped. I don't know if that's okay to say.
Maybe we should do it differently then.
It's fine.
The next day, Tim stops by. He comes to the front door to bring them cookies from his parents in Florida. And Josh opens the door, and Tim is like, "This is not a 5-year-old."
You're older than a 5-year-old? My God.
And so
You're a big 5-year-old.
that is a giant kindergartner.
That would be so much funnier if he was also an idiot and he just went with it. It's like, my goodness, I know a lot of 5-year-olds, but this is by far the largest one. What do you feed him? Dog food?
Pure hormones.
It's just calf milk replacer.
Josh carried the cookies into the kitchen. Tim and Brooke are standing there, and Tim's like, he's not in kindergarten. And Brooke is like, I never said he was in kindergarten. Because she let him assume, after he'd said, oh, I hope his first day of kindergarten goes well,
Yeah.
that's how old he was. And she's like, yeah, he's 10. And Tim is like, oh my God, Shane is the father. Yeah, Shane's the father. Josh doesn't know. Neither Shane nor Josh know who Josh's dad is, and to not tell them anything. Because she's like, Tim, don't tell anyone. It's a theme throughout the book that Josh is like, where's my dad? Who is my dad? And she won't tell him. She just kind of says he doesn't want to come around. She could have told him that, like, he was dead or who it was. So it's kind of left really weird and ambiguous of why she didn't and why it was never discussed. So it feels like the same pattern of her parents unwilling to actually talk to her and tell her anything is what she's doing to her own son.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of...
It's
really weird
frustrating.
that's establishing a pattern like that.
And then the pattern of he wants a dad. Oh, you need to get him a dad. Oh, I should get him a dad. It's really, it feels just misogynistic.
Yeah.
And it's
like,
pointless.
This family is missing its star shape, and it has to be there, even though there's no real functional need for it.
And he is not shown as having any real problems that would be like, oh, he doesn't have a father figure, and that's why this is happening.
Right.
It's just people around her telling her. So Tim is uncomfortable. He's kind of like, ooh, like this is not what he was expecting. He was expecting random unknown dad from like a one-night stand.
Yeah.
Now he knows who the dad is.
Taking it
and he was there that
personally.
night.
Yeah.
He knows that was the only opportunity they had to have had sex.
Right.
So it's like, ew, I knew too much about this. But Josh tells them that the sink is broken. Tim goes to help him fix the sink.
So, sidebar, has Brooke never had sex with anyone except Shane?
It's mentioned that like maybe she dated in New York at one point, but it's never said that she did.
Right.
And it's like, oh, she hasn't had sex in a while. But we are never, ever mentioned anyone else. And she always mentions how she doesn't want to bring anyone around her son. And she doesn't want him to, like, think someone is his dad. And it feels like there's been no other relationship because the author couldn't be arsed to bother making one.
Mm-hmm.
Not even casual dating.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's really weird. And their relationship with Shane and Brooke when they were teenagers was only 3 months long. When she was 17. And he was her first real boyfriend.
And had sex once and got pregnant.
So Josh and Tim hit it off and they become best buds. Josh asks him to fix a doorknob, and Tim is like, I'll come back later and do that. And so he goes from being uncomfortable about the situation to coming over every day and doing maintenance on the house.
Perfectly cool.
Perfectly cool. 1 tiny minute of, ugh. Because, of course,
That's fine.
if you're dating someone and they have a kid, you are dating that unit.
Yeah, you gotta take, like, it's
You're
good that
taking the kid with the mom. You cannot date the mom and not have the kid involved.
Right.
That's how integration in a mixed family or blended family works.
Yeah. And if you're taking it seriously, yeah, you might want to take a moment to just be like, ooh, do I want to get involved with this?
That might take some thought.
Right.
Especially if he was 5. This would kind of be... He's smaller, and it might be easier to build that relationship.
Yeah.
10, if this kid doesn't like you, this is going to ruin your relationship with the mom. So, and he's a elementary school, he had been an elementary school teacher, and now he's a middle school principal. He's shown throughout the book to be great with kids.
Right.
He helps him with his homework. He is really kind. Every time Brooke sets down the law, he's like, listen to your mom. Like, if you wanted the perfect...
Why does this serial killer have so many green flags?
The whole book, all of these times, he is just sweet and kind. Josh loves him. He is just great. He comes over, they play baseball in the yard. He becomes his, like, pseudo-dad instantly.
Right.
Not realistic at all. You would expect there to be some
Some
rocky...
pushback and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
some pushback a little bit. But it kind of feels like we've just been waiting for the guy to come in and be the dad, and now he's here, and it's perfect.
Right. So doing this is fine, but you're supposed to sow in, like, little seeds of doubt throughout this stage in Tim. Like, little sort of innocuous seeming stuff.
Being a little controlling.
Right, that pays
Losing
off.
your patience.
Yeah, pays off at the end of the book. Does it do
Right.
that at all?
No.
He's just a really nice dude.
I would date him.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah, he comes across as just a genuinely nice guy who she says she wants friendship. He's like, I want friendship. I missed you. We were best friends from the time we were in diapers and we were neighbors.
Yeah.
He's staying at his parents' house as like a long-term house sitting.
Yeah.
So he literally lives 2 houses down. He walks through the neighbor's yard to come over and just hangs out. They have dinner. He goes home. Perfect gentleman.
Yeah. The politest serial killer.
Yeah. Like, really genuinely. And I was like, why are we setting up that Shane was innocent and Tim is the bad guy if we're not getting any hint? We should have seen something controlling.
Right.
And we haven't up to this point. I'm just like, okay.
Like, the writing just leads you to infer that Tim is nefarious in some way without giving you, like, any kind of evidence to go on.
Yeah.
That sucks.
We flash back to just after the sex, and Shane realizes the condom came off sometime during the sex, and they're both a little freaked out. And then Shane reassures her that it will be okay, and they'll figure it out, and whatever she wants to do, he'll support her. And she's like, with those few words, he's changed his future. He was supposed to go to college and be a star football player, but he loves me and he would support me. Oh, he's the best! Because she has very low standards.
Yeah.
Like teenage Brooke has very low standards. And she lucked into this relationship with Tim. Because she has not had any level of discernment.
And she's just, in general, kind of an airhead. So that's cool.
Reassured, they fall back asleep in each other's arms until screaming wakes them up. Oh,
Does she wake up alone?
Nope, he's in bed with her. They both wake up
Well,
in
if
each other's
the
arms.
murdering is happening while she's
In bed,
cuddling
in
with,
his arms.
right?
Yes. They wake up. They're screaming. Brooke and Shane are woken up by Chelsea screaming Brooke's name on the front porch. Brooke, Brooke. Brandon, Chelsea's boyfriend, is on the front porch dead with stab wounds in his chest with blood going everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everyone is freaked out, of course. There's no cell service because they're out in the boonies. They try to leave in Chelsea's car, but her tires are slashed. They try to leave in Shane's car, but his tires are slashed. They try to use the house phone, but it's cut, and the power is out.
See, at this point, like, you're supposed to be, like, adding in, like, certain plausibilities and stuff like that, like, her waking up and Shane not being in bed, but he might not necessarily have been around when the stabbing was happening. Maybe he was doing something else at the back of the house or something.
Like, when was there time for him to leave the bed with his arms wrapped around her,
Right.
go down and murder Brandon, come back into bed, and never wake her up
Yeah.
at all?
Like, at this point, it would seem fairly clear that Shane is not the killer. Like, potentially, maybe Tim isn't the killer at this point.
Right, because at this point in the story, all of the teenagers think that maybe somebody else outside the house came up to the house and killed Brandon.
Right.
Like, it's somebody on the outside coming in to murder all the teens in this horror movie we're now in.
Yeah.
Kayla is having a breakdown. She tries to run down the dirt driveway, but it's raining and she falls in the mud, which proves that they can't escape.
What?
They cannot
I'm sorry?
walk down
They
the
can't
road
walk
to
down a
town
muddy road?
because it's muddy and she fell down and Tim has to rescue her out of the mud.
That's the laziest of the lazy excuses. That is sort of like in, have you ever watched the original Evil Dead? Mm-mm. Okay. They can't leave because on the road that they traveled to get to the cabin before all the evil magic stuff starts happening, they cross a creek. And while they're there, it starts raining and it floods the creek. So they literally cannot leave. But just a muddy driveway?
A muddy driveway.
That's all that's going to keep you
And
to sit there in a cabin and get murdered?
but here's the thing. Shane tells them that because the power's out, that meant lightning must have struck a electric pole, and the electric lines will be in the road, and if they walk across that water, they will be electrocuted, which is why they can't leave.
No, you don't know that. Also, I don't think that's how that works. Like, it's going to be, it won't, if it's already conducting into the water, touching the ground, it's not going to go through you unless you're holding the power line.
Also, you would have to be very close,
Right.
and you would probably notice
Yeah.
that there's an electric line down across the road.
Also, it could also just be that a fuse blew in the panel or something.
Right. Nobody goes to check.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well,
lightning,
of course not. The
power
writers
went
are
out.
fucking lazy.
Yeah. And it's really stupid. I didn't even write it down. But she thinks in her head, oh God, my parents are going to kill me because I was here with Shane.
Also, your friend got stabbed to death.
Your best friend's boyfriend is dead
Yeah.
on the front porch.
What are we doing here? Where are our priorities?
We flash forward to present day. Because we can only dose out that night, a paragraph at a time.
Of course.
I combined multiple flash forwards each time because I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that
That's
sounds
pointless.
fucking insufferable.
It was, no, I'm not doing this.
I hate that.
Hunt is trying to get on Brooke's good side because he's warned her about Shane. She didn't really believe him. And now he's like, well, if I show how good of a person I am, Brooke will believe me, not Shane. So he went and filled out the paperwork to get the mattress for that prisoner because Dorothy refused to let her get one.
Yeah.
And you needed to get, and he's like, I remember we got one for a prisoner a while back, and you had to use these forms, and I filled them out as best as I could. You just need to fill out the rest, and if we send it in, he'll get a mattress. So she's like, oh, you're a nice person.
I mean, she is just swayed by any wind that comes by. So, so far with Tim and Shane, yeah. So
she's like, oh, this is a good guy. So she starts, and he starts like bringing her coffee every morning, and she like warms up to him, and I think he just still wants to date her.
yeah.
But she's just like, oh, he's such a nice guy now. Never mind, we saw him brain Shane on the desk, but
Right.
okay.
Yeah. Those don't exist. That was a while ago.
That was yesterday.
All those murders that happened, they don't matter either.
That was literally
time has passed
yesterday
and it doesn't matter anymore.
That was literally yesterday because today Brooke's checking on Shane and letting him go from the infirmary.
What? Okay. She was concerned that he needed like a CT scan before, like.
Yeah, like yesterday and now today. Oh, he's fine. He can go back to general population. And Shane is like, you need to stay away from Tim. He's dangerous. And she's like, oh no, maybe Tim is dangerous because I only listen to what men tell me.
Only one at a time, though.
She tells
so
Shane...
whoever told her the last thing is what she's going to go with.
She tells Shane that she'll stay away from Tim, and she's just lying. She's already, like, been dating him.
Right.
At this point.
Well, yeah, she doesn't want to upset the possibly crazy criminal from her perspective, because even though she's got ample evidence in her flashbacks that he didn't do it.
Right. We flash back again.
God damn
it. We get more frequent flashbacks
the further back
we go in.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love that.
They put a blanket over Brandon. Chelsea wants to leave, and Tim pulls Brooke aside and says all the kitchen knives are gone.
Why would you know that, Tim?
He went and checked. He's looking for a weapon to defend them from whoever killed Brandon. And
it's like, oh no, all the knives are gone after he threw them all down in the basement or something. It's like, oh, all the knives are gone except this one. I'll hold on to it.
We flash forward. Tim has been coming around for a month. Josh asks if Tim is his father and is crushed when Brooke tells him no. And he was like, but he's someone you knew when you were young, and you really like him now, and he really likes me. Obviously, he should be my dad. And she's like, no, he could be. Not actually. That's not what she says. That would have made more sense. Brooke flirts with Tim and they kiss. And every time this fucking happens, she says, I didn't tell him no. I didn't pull away.
Ew.
Over and over in this book.
Yeah, so she's not making like an active decision to be a part of this. She's just letting it happen to her.
She's letting him kiss her. And like, I let him. Oh, well, it was really nice. And I liked it, but I let him. She agrees that Tim is a great guy. He's perfectly sweet and helpful. He's kind to Josh. He reinforces Brooke's rules. She goes through this mental list of why he's so great and is like, fine, he can be the new guy. We're accepting this all now, and we are just agreeing that he is the best.
Sure, like as a practical thing, I guess, but I mean, she
just in her head
right.
waffles over and over between I don't want this, but I do want this, and I don't want this, but I do want this.
Yeah.
Until one evening, Tim comes over and he is wearing sandalwood aftershave.
Sandalwood is a really common scent.
And she does make a point of saying one guy came on a date with her and was wearing sandalwood and she would never see him again and never tell him why. But with Tim, she says that was the scent Shane was wearing the night of the murders. Go wash it off. And he runs straight to the bathroom and scrubs himself pink and doesn't smell gross. And he's like, I'm sorry. I'll throw it away. I didn't know. I won't wear it again.
Another green flag.
Another green flag. He doesn't argue. He doesn't gaslight. He doesn't disagree. He just...
The least problematic serial killer. I love this guy.
I know.
He's just got this horrible penchant to stab people in the night. Other than that, he's great.
I mean, later they kiss, and Tim admits he's been hoping things would go further.
I can't wait for them to passively have sex and for her to be just okay with it.
You know what's crazy is later on, they say, I love you. She expects to have sex with him, and he'll be just as attentive as he always is. And it'll be great, like it always is. And that's the only mention we get about that they've been having sex, that he's great in bed, he's kind and attentive and makes her come. and we're just moving on. Like,
so many green flags on this guy.
I mean,
I'm looking for the red flags. I don't fucking see them.
I was too. I was the whole time too.
Why
does
you make
feel-
the nicest guy in the story the serial killer?
She thinks about how this has been too perfect.
Oh my god.
And remembers Shane's warning.
This person's treating me so so decently. He's clearly something is wrong with him. That's so fucked up.
So she's like, yeah, we're just going to have a relationship. That's fine. And decides to just ignore Shane's warning, but it niggles in her head. Like he has manipulated her. He has got inside her head. And now she's just getting this niggling feeling. That's the only red flag we get, is her feeling like he has been too perfect. And it's like, it is true that abusers will be perfect and great until they're not.
Sure.
That is true.
Yeah.
But there's usually warning signs after a couple of weeks.
Right.
Or a month.
They're not going to keep up that facade forever.
They cannot keep
Right.
it up forever. They cannot hold off all of those internal tendencies for control or rage or whatever it is.
They do it long enough to get someone in their sphere and to where they won't leave quite so easily. And some of them will keep it up longer than others, sure, but
Yeah. So that was just like, okay, so he must be he must be that. He must be
Yeah.
a narcissist who's just, but we just don't see it. We flash back. Tim is telling Brooke that Shane killed Brandon, but Brooke doesn't believe him. This is the night of. They just found Brandon's body, and Tim has said, there's no knives in the drawer. Tim found a baseball bat and says if Shane comes after him, he'll hit him, because it's longer than a knife.
yeah, I guess so. Very tactical, Tim.
Kayla she went and hid in the bedroom under the covers to calm down, and she's been quiet for a while. So they go to check on her.
And she's been stabbed to death.
She's dead, stabbed in the chest, just like Brandon.
It's crazy.
We flash forward.
Cool.
Brooke is taking care of an inmate with a broken finger. She tapes his fingers, and he mutters, "Goddamn Nelson." And she asks what he said. He says nothing. He says that his fingers got slammed in a door, and she wonders if he meant Shane Nelson. And she's like, maybe Shane broke this guy's finger. And then she dismisses it and decides that can't possibly be true.
Why?
Because Shane's the one getting beat up in prison.
Oh my god.
Because he had to come in and get stitches.
Yeah, there's only one guy that can get victimized in a prison. It's not like a hierarchy of people abusing each other.
Or gangs.
Yeah.
So she has decided Shane is the only victim in this entire prison system, and everyone else has it out to get him because he didn't ask for narcotics and was pitiful that one time. That's just where she's at.
So stupid. All right.
Brooke and Tim exchange keys.
Oh.
Because they're neighbors, and that's what good neighbors do, right?
Oh, they're still neighbors.
Because he lives in his parents' house right down the
yeah.
road. And so they each have each other's key, but he's over like multiple nights a week.
Right.
March has started cooking extra servings for dinner because he's just over for dinner. And sometimes, they'll make out a little, or a couple times he'll stay the night. But it's still very casual. He's just becoming part of the family.
Right.
He's not trying to barge in. He's not trying to get her to move in with him. It's just still, we're just hanging out still.
Fairly casual, yeah.
Pretty casual, yeah.
But now that he's got a key, and no one else knows he has a key, he's going to try to murder her with some amount of plausible deniability. How close am I?
Blame it on Shane.
Yeah, it's all his fault.
Today, Tim brings over their high school yearbook. And she's like, oh my God, Josh is going to see Shane's face and know that's his dad. And Tim's like, his picture's not in it. Don't worry about it. And she's like, oh.
Well, why isn't his picture in it then?
Shane's isn't?
Yeah.
Because he was the murderer and went to prison.
So he didn't get to graduate.
He didn't graduate, and they just erased him from the yearbook.
Okay.
I guess that was part of his punishment, too.
Yeah. Okay. It would have been way cooler if they didn't say anything about it until they got to where the picture was supposed to be, and it was just cut out or marked out or something like that. showing that Tim really fucking hates
Just really
Shane.
hates Shane.
That would have been a cool wrinkle, but
The only reason we see this yearbook is because Brooke finds out that Marcus Hunt, the correctional officer who's beating up Shane now, is the kid that Shane put in the hospital as a teenager. Because she sees the picture, and Tim points out that that was the kid that Shane and Brandon hospitalized. And she's like, oh, now he gets to take it out on Shane in prison, and that's why he hates Shane so much. And that helps explain to her why he behaves that way.
yeah. I mean, kind of out. It's not good, but...
And she had asked Shane, why does Officer Hunt treat you like this? And Shane was like, oh, I don't know. And so she realizes Shane lied to her. Yeah, she realizes Shane lied to me.
Because he's ashamed, because he did something bad that would make him deserving of getting the shit beat out of him by a prison guard in prison.
It's actually part of the manipulation, because he wants to look like an innocent victim, not someone getting revenge meted out on him for bullying 10 years later.
I don't care how innocent Shane is. He's got so many red flags.
Yes, he really does. We flash back. Shane says Tim must have killed Kayla. Tim and Shane both try to convince her that they are innocent. So they're both standing around her saying, it was him, it was him, it was him. And Chelsea grabs her and is like, fuck you all. And she grabs her and hauls her upstairs to a bedroom, and they barricade the door.
Yeah.
And that seems like the sensible thing to do. You don't know who is killing who.
Right.
It's probably not Chelsea, your best friend, who's also a small cheerleader like you.
Right. It's an Among Us situation, but you can't shoot somebody out the airlock.
And Tim comes up to the door to talk to them and says, yeah, don't come out. Just stay in there.
Okay.
Flash forward. Brooke confronts Hunt and demands to know why he never mentioned that they knew each other, and why was he still tormenting Shane. He doesn't understand why she's defending Shane, since Shane tried to kill her and killed
also
all
beat
of her
the shit
friends.
out of him. Yeah.
And beat the shit out of him.
Pretty unequivocally a shitty guy.
Yeah.
by his standards, for sure.
Yeah. This is the guy who's in prison for it.
Yeah.
The justice system found him guilty.
Right.
So Hunt offers to hurt Shane if Brooke says. He's like, you want him to really suffer? I'll make him suffer.
I mean, that's not great either, though.
It's not great. And Brooke says, no, I want you to stop hurting him.
Yeah.
He just stop hurting him. And so he's like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to go tell Dorothy you have a relationship with Shane before, and you shouldn't have got this job because Shane is the father of your son, and you put him in prison. And she's like, oh, you win.
I mean, she shouldn't have gotten this job, though.
She should not have gotten this job. And
this has caused so much fuckery
blackmail.
just right here.
This makes her blackmailable.
Yeah. It puts her in a really vulnerable position that she shouldn't want to be any part of.
Right. Like, this is such a harrowing position that someone could find out and telling you she could actually get in legal trouble for this because if her care of Shane is brought into question. That's a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So he decides to just put all of his cards on the table. He knows that Josh is 10 and Shane is the dad. He knows that she's been sleeping with Tim and he wants some of that. So he says, you're going to stop dating Tim. You're going to start dating me. And they haggle and finally come to the agreement she's going to give him coffee every morning.
Boy, negotiations really suffered here.
It becomes
That's
a
crazy.
non-issue.
What?
We build up the stress. He knows.
I'm going to blackmail you for sex, but I'm just bluffing, though, and I will just settle for you just bringing me a coffee. That's crazy.
He says, you're going to bring me coffee every morning. She's like, fine. And that's the end of the conversation.
Fine, I guess. That's crazy.
The lamest setup and letdown ever.
Oh my god.
Because you would expect this to be an actual crucial key point in the novel.
Right.
This is going to be the thing that lets Shane know he's a dad, or Dorothy knows that she's compromised, or he's going to kick Tim out and Tim will bring on revenge. No, none of it matters. Moving on.
See, okay, but it was almost like cleverly done, though. Like him being set up in that position to do the blackmail.
Yes.
Relatively clever.
Yes.
And then you fumble the fucking bag?
Yes.
How? How do you do that?
Right. And it like would have made more sense if he'd been the one who did the murders, or if he's the one who is gonna do stuff now. Like, it's just, I don't know why we had this huge setup for
Nothing.
nothing.
For coffee every morning.
Yeah, because he'd been bringing her a coffee every morning to butter her up, and now he's demanding a coffee because he knows things about her.
What did he think she had on him for him to be bringing coffee every day?
I think he was just buttering her up and wanting to have a date with her. She's the only female he knows except for Dorothy. These characters are so one-dimensional.
Right, yeah,
Nobody
there aren't
has
any other
relationships
people.
with anyone else.
Right. Okay.
Has she dated in the past? We don't know because she has no backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Has Tim dated other people? Kelly, that one girl who could be bitchy to her at the grocery store. Does Hunt have other relationships? Who knows? He's not written about with anyone else.
Right. That's cool.
There's
and
5
awesome.
people in this book. They all know each other. They all hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
No one else exists.
Awesome. I love that.
So she gets in this fight with Hunt. And then she goes to Dorothy comes to confront her.
Okay.
Because
Is
the
she
mattress...
going to blackmail her as well?
She blackmails Dorothy.
Does she
She
get
takes it
something
out
more
on
than
Dorothy.
coffee every morning?
The mattress came in, and Dorothy comes in and just chews her out for wasting prison money on a mattress, which probably cost $400 at most for a decent mattress to make a paraplegic man not get an ulcer that would cause him to need surgery.
Sure. But somebody
She
would have had to
says-
just approve that, right?
Right. Like,
Somebody like in an
it was
office
probably
position.
the doctor who was supposed to be supervising her.
Yeah,
She had
so-
to write out the paperwork, send it to the doctor. He had to sign it, and then whoever pays for it had to pay for it.
Yeah, it had to be okayed through somebody else. Like,
Dorothy's beneath her on the rung because she's the nurse, but she's been there forever.
Yeah.
And so Dorothy thinks she runs the show. It's just to cause this little bit of drama, I guess, and to show that Brooke is going to stand up for her patients because she's a good person. And she threatens to go to the press and tell them that these prisoners are being so mistreated that they don't get lidocaine when their stitches are sewed up. And she's preventing a paraplegic from having a normal mattress. And Dorothy's like, fine.
oh no, consequences for my actions.
Okay, so that was another nothing burger.
Yeah.
You got him a mattress. Good job.
Cool.
Cool.
You did your job. Awesome.
Next day, days later, who knows, doesn't matter. It's Brooke's birthday. She's happy. Things are good. Tim is nice. Her son is happy. Tim gives her a snowflake charm necklace, which freaks her the fuck out because it looks exactly like the one Shane used to try to murder her.
It also looks exactly like the one he gave her already. There's two
When he was a
associations
child.
here. Yeah.
Yes.
There's two associations here. This didn't necessarily have to be connected to the murder, so this still isn't like a direct red flag to Tim.
What also is funny, Tim didn't know that it was that necklace that was used to try to kill her. He doesn't remember. He thought Shane tried to use his hands.
But Tim was doing the murders, right?
That's what she is like later, like, oh, he knew, and he's doing this to mess with me. She freaks out and drops the necklace like it's a hot potato. And is like, this is the same one that was used to try to kill me. And he's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I'll get you something else tomorrow. And he just apologizes and puts it like on the counter out of the way.
This is the lamest prank.
Right.
It's also the lamest gaslight.
And he only remembers giving her the necklace when he was a little kid.
Yeah.
And he never saw her wear it as an adult. And he thought, oh, she lost it or something. So he was like, hey, this one looks like the one when I was a kid. Remember that? We were such good friends. This is like a callback. This is just a callback for him to the sweet thing he did when he was 6. And she loved when she was 6. But she's taking it as a sinister thing. He's doing this to mess with her.
Just going completely off vibes.
Yes.
There's no reason here.
There's no reason.
No logic happening.
But here is where we see our first red flag with Tim.
Okay.
They are driving home from dinner, and he tells her that he found her a different job. He found her a job as a nurse practitioner at a pediatric clinic because he's like, you don't want to work at a maximum security prison forever, do you? And she's like, well, it's not that bad, but it would be nice to never see Shane again. And so it's kind of feels like he's
pushing her
to leave working there, but also she's working there in a compromised position.
Yeah.
And she didn't want this job at the beginning.
Like
and she tried to get a job anywhere else. And he knows these things because they've been talking for 3 months.
Yeah, like he is being like a little bit pushy in that moment, sure. But also it's perfectly fucking reasonable.
To be like, and it wasn't like, you are getting this job tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got you an interview.
Yeah.
If you would like to go try out this pediatric, clinic.
Yeah, that's not like super manipulative or anything.
No. And so it's kind of like, oh, I might try that out. That would be kind of nice. I might have a hard time getting out of my year-long contract. And he's like, I'm sure you can get out of it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard.
At the very least, setting yourself up for another job in the future.
Right. We flash back. Chelsea thinks Tim was the one who killed Brandon and Kayla. Brooke doesn't believe it because they are best friends.
Shitty criteria. Understandable for a 17-year-old, though.
They're best friends and Tim is good. So she doesn't believe it could be Shane because that's her boyfriend. She doesn't believe it could be Tim because he's her good neighbor. And she doesn't believe it's Chelsea because she's in the room with Chelsea hiding with her. So I don't know what scenario she thinks is going on here.
It must be Brooke.
That would have made more sense.
I Brooke am the serial killer. I never would have suspected me.
Chelsea points out that Tim is in love with Brooke, which she only realizes at this moment in time as 17-year-old. And we even have had flashbacks to how Tim would say, when we're married, blah, blah, blah. When we're grown up, we're gonna blah, blah, blah. And they practiced kissing each other when they were like 12, but it was only practice because they're only friends.
I'm starting to think I understand Tim's side. It's starting to feel a little bit like Tim was led on a little bit. I'm empathizing way too much with the serial killer in this story.
I wrote, this feels like it was written by a quote-unquote nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, you just abandoned the neighbor who really loved you, and look how good and nice he is. And she's like, oh, he is. He does love me, but I still love Shane more, because hormones.
Fucking why?
I don't know. He's handsome. He loved her. He pursued her, I guess. We flash forward. Brooke blurts out to Tim that maybe she was wrong about Shane being the murderer.
Why would you tell that to Tim? You were there. You know the only other person that could possibly be the murderer is Tim.
Because Kayla was in a
airhead.
bedroom. Kayla was in a bedroom. It had to have been one of them.
Right.
This is no longer outsider murdering teens scenario.
Mm-hmm.
This is a small house with just one upstairs, a couple bedrooms. Whoever it is has to know every person here. And so...
Okay, I imagine the conversation going like this. It would be, Tim, I know that I've thought for all these years that it was Shane, but I don't think it was Shane anymore. It must have been Chelsea.
That would be really funny. This upsets Tim, of course, who claims that Shane stabbed him in the stomach, and Shane told Tim that Brooke was next. Tim insists that Shane is evil, and this makes Brooke upset, and she gets up and goes inside the house.
The guy that allegedly tried to kill you and your friends.
We have a couple thoughts for why she's having this. She has seen the scar on his stomach now because they've had sex.
Oh, okay.
And it's
so
only
it
like
looks,
an inch wide.
Yeah.
And she is like, oh, I thought it would be way bigger than that. And so she's like, maybe he wasn't hurt that badly. He claims that he got like gutted. Like that's how he describes it.
Yeah.
But it's like an inch long scar. She goes back inside because this was the birthday dinner or whatever. And she looks at the necklace again and realizes it has to be the same necklace because a diamond is missing on the same spoke of the snowflake.
Wouldn't that be part of, like, police evidence?
It was never found because it was being used to choke her and then it broke and it got dropped.
Yeah.
And it was
That
just
a really
never
stupid
found.
way to try to murder her.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
At all. If it was like a leather thong or like a necklace made out of something else, maybe. Or if it was a scarf.
So Tim is just a nefarious psycho, and he's just like, yes, the necklace I tried to murder her with, I will give
That I
to
kept
her
all
again.
these years. And she's like, he said he bought it at a flea market. I've never seen a flea market in town.
Tim's not allowed to leave the state or the town or...
She's been gone for 10 years and she's only been in town for 3 months and it is now fall. And she's never described as driving around town or looking for a flea market. Mm-hmm. She wouldn't know. But because she hasn't seen one, he must be lying about getting this necklace at a flea market. He must have been saving it up all along to get her with.
That's really dumb. So he couldn't have just went somewhere else and bought it.
Or gotten a new snowflake necklace and poked the diamond out.
Right.
That would make more sense if he's being nefarious.
Yeah. that would be crazy.
That would be crazy. But now she's wondering if Tim was actually the murderer. Mm-hmm. Notice she's not breaking up with him or telling him to stop coming around her small child.
Yeah.
She's just vaguely, maybe Shane's innocent and Tim is guilty.
It's like, what a thought experiment.
A couple evenings later, Tim declares his undying forever love, and she tells him she loves him too.
I love you, man. I suspect of trying to murder me. Yeah.
Does that make a lick of sense?
No, it super doesn't.
If I thought that Jay was a murderer, I would not go to sleep next to him.
Right.
At which he pouts. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. If you are mentally thinking, this man who loves me and my son adores could have been the murderer, that would change how you feel towards someone.
Right.
A lot.
But no, she doesn't. She stops thinking about any particular thing if she's not looking directly at it.
This is where we get, in the book, all along, we haven't believed that Tim was the killer. Mm-hmm. The whole time it has been Shane is the killer. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to shift the attitude to maybe Tim is the killer. Because you, out the gate, you were like, oh, Tim's the killer, Shane's innocent. Mm-hmm. Obvious twist coming. Right.
Yep.
But this is where we start to really push it. She's over at his house. They're at her house. The news is on, and she sees that Kelly, the waitress from that bar, is a missing person. And she's like, hey, didn't you date her? And he's like, no, I don't think so. She's like, you told me you went on 2 dates. And he's like, oh, I think we had a drink sometime. Hey, I gotta go. And he leaves.
I'm just gonna act real sus now.
Yeah! She decides he's lying and is now very suspicious.
That's a really stupid thing to lie about.
She checks out Kelly's social media after Tim goes home, and on Kelly's Facebook is a post that says, fact, vice principals are good kissers.
Ew, that's fucking weird. That's weird to say even if it's true.
Brooke decides that must mean they had kissed.
Uh-huh.
And they must have had a more serious relationship.
Not necessarily.
But decides to downplay Kelly missing and decides Kelly must have just skipped town for some reason.
What?
She literally gaslights herself out of thinking about
But
this.
Tim isn't even doing the gaslight. She's doing this to herself.
To us. She's doing this to me, personally.
Yeah. It's different. Okay, so you remember when we went over... What was that other thriller that I did? Where she was in the hole?
That has been so long ago.
Yeah, it super has. I can't remember.
Let me pull it up. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Dirty Liar.
Dirty Liar. So you remember back in Dirty Liar, when the main character was getting gaslit by her significant other, James, throughout the entire book. Like, it is actively being done to her.
Yeah.
But when the murderer isn't actually doing the gaslighting and your character's just doing it to themselves and the reader, that's fucking weird.
It was really frustrating, especially on my second read through.
Yeah.
Because the first time, I'm busy, I'm cleaning, I'm moving stuff around, I got other stuff going on. Not really paying attention like I was going to do this podcast.
Yeah.
It was just a casual
Yeah.
Oh, maybe Tim is the bad guy. Because I'm like not trying to jump. I try not to jump ahead and I try to just let it go. And I'm in my zone out space.
I have a problem. I get it.
No, I mean, lots of people, and sometimes I will if it's like a fun mystery or something. This, I was in my other zone. This was my background noise.
Gotcha.
And so she's like, oh, Kelly probably just went on vacation and she's a missing person because reasons. And it was like, but Tim is acting weird. You have just remembered him acting weird after Tracy Gifford went missing. And you're not putting these together.
Yeah.
And you think Tim might have been the murderer back then, but you told him you love him, and you're sad he left and went home after acting weird about Kelly. This character's motivation or emotional response makes no sense.
Yeah. It's really weird.
A couple days later, she is working at the prison, and Shane ends up in the medical office again, this time with broken ribs. She accidentally tells Shane that her son is 10.
Why?
She mentioned last year in 4th grade.
Why are you so bad at this?
She is dumb. He realizes Josh is his son.
Great.
And he says, please, Brooke, show me a picture. And she's like, sure.
You could just lie to him again. Just tell him you cheated on him or something.
Also, could have had a new relationship after Shane. Could have been a different guy. We're not lining up birth dates and sun signs here.
Right.
He realizes Shane is his son, Josh is his son. He acts very pathetic. I don't want you to bring him here and to see me this way. I always wanted kids, and now it will never happen. Oh, poor me. And she's like, oh, I did this to him. I sent him to prison. I've ruined his life.
Not if you still think he was the murderer.
Well, now she's thinking Tim is. And she put an innocent man in prison.
Then you need to deal with that situation.
You need to tell someone.
Right. Oh, God.
She's not telling anyone. She's just feeling...
Just keeping this to herself.
She's just keeping this all to herself.
She's like, no, these are private thoughts. This doesn't affect anyone.
Is just feeling guilty because he's never going to meet his son. It's like you're breaking all of the rules by showing these pictures. You're also endangering your son. This is just not safe.
Yeah, if you keep up with this, you'll have to bring like 2 coffees every morning.
All right, flashback.
We...
Chelsea and Brooke argue about who did the murders. Brooke decides to leave the room, that they are safe inside, barricaded.
Yep, bad idea.
Because she thinks to herself, oh no, if one of them is the murderer, they're going to murder the other one.
That was always the situation.
It only occurs to her right now.
God,
I'm safe in here with Chelsea, and one of them is going to murder the other one. I need to go get in the middle of that. Chelsea tries to stop her from unbarricading the door.
Yeah.
And she kicks Chelsea and unbarricades the door and goes out.
Good job getting your other friend murdered, I guess.
She comes downstairs. It's dark because no power. and she trips, and someone jumps on her back and tries to strangle her with the necklace. Mm-hmm. The necklace breaks, and she elbows her attacker, and she runs past the blood and the body that's on the floor. She runs out the house, down the road, and there's a truck, and she screams, "Help me, help me."
How did she not get stopped by the mud? How did she even get that far? That's incredible.
Because apparently there was no reason to stay in the house the whole time.
Sure wasn't. Oh, boy.
The cops find 3 dead bodies.
There were 3.
The cops find 3 dead bodies. Brandon, Kayla, and Chelsea are all dead.
Yeah.
Tim is stabbed in the gut, and Shane is knocked unconscious. So the cops show up, and everyone is injured or dead. Except Brooke. Tim blamed Shane, and Shane blamed Tim. Brooke blamed Shane, and that cinched it, so Shane got life in prison and Tim went free.
Cool.
Flash forward. Brooke got the pediatric care job, and they celebrate with dinner at Tim's house. She finds a green scarf in the couch, and it makes her suspicious.
Now? Again?
She's been suspicious the whole time. This
right,
makes her
she
more
never stopped
suspicious. Because she's like, he wouldn't cheat on me. Maybe it's somebody else's.
He wouldn't cheat on me, but he might be a serial killer. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he walks in and he's like, I should actually read it because it's, God bless.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, whose scarf is this? He barely looks at it. I don't know, yours? It's not mine. It doesn't look familiar to me. Maybe it's my mother's? Of course. That makes sense. This is her inner monologue. It shouldn't be suspicious to find a piece of woman's clothing in the furniture. Maybe the perfume was familiar because it was the same his mother wore years ago. Yes, that must be it. After all, Tim wouldn't cheat on me. She's sitting there mentally gaslighting herself. Also, this isn't Tim's house. This is his parents' house.
Right.
His mother lives there. They're just on extended vacation in Florida.
Yeah, that's even weirder that one of his potential murder victims' scarf is at his parents' house.
Right. So it's like...
That's weird.
Why are you taking this so personally when it's just a green scarf and it's a woman's clothing, but his mother lives here?
And, like, that's something that's out of place if it's a place you've been to a lot.
Also, it's a green scarf that matched the green couch she's sitting on.
Yeah.
So it could have been there for years and no one would have
noticed.
noticed.
No one saw it.
If it's just the same shade of green, it could have sat there forever. She only felt it wedged against her thigh, and that's why she pulled it out of the crack of the couch.
So this is like Kelly's scarf or the other one?
Tim vaguely suggests moving in together. He's like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something.
She's like, oh, I found this scarf. Do you want to move in?
And she's like... She doesn't want to hurt Josh if things go bad. She's like, oh, I don't want to give him a father and then take the father away if things go south. And so she's kind of like, eh. And he's like, oh, if you don't want to talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. Like, he's like, it's okay.
He's so nice.
Yeah. He sees her face that she is uncomfortable having the conversation.
Yeah.
And he tables it. He's like, we can talk about it later. And he's like, hey, I'm making spaghetti. How about you run downstairs and get us a bottle of wine? Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay. So she goes downstairs, gets the bottle of wine, sees the dead body in the tarp.
I'm sorry?
And goes, ah!
So that's how he gets caught?
Yeah.
Is she just finds the body he murdered?
Yeah, wrapped in a tarp in the corner
That's
of the
so
basement.
fucking lame. That's so impossibly lame.
And he sent her down there.
Right. It's like, oh no.
You saw the shoes sticking out of the tarp.
I forgot. Wait, did I put the dead body in the garage or the basement? Shit. That's so fucking lame.
Yes.
That sucks so bad.
She tries to, so she has this mental little monologue thing. Tim was the murderer all along. He must have killed Tracy Gifford. He must have been the one killing her that night. He's been playing with me the whole time.
Sure.
Because there's a dead body right here. So she drops the bottle of wine and she goes upstairs and she can't get out. The basement is the door's stuck.
Okay, so this is like a trap for her, and
Right.
he's messing with her.
Right.
Is why he did this. Okay.
So he comes. She's like, "Let me out," and he comes to the door and he like yanks on it and he's like, "Oh, the door is stuck. Sorry." And she's like, "I want to go home. I have a migraine." And he's like, "You've never had a migraine the whole time we've been together."
Doesn't preclude. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's just
And she's
screwing with her.
like, "I don't feel good. I want to go home." And he's like, "I cooked for you for a whole hour. Why are you leaving?" She's like, "I want to go. I'm going." And he's like, "Why are you leaving?" Because she hasn't said that she saw the body.
Wait, he doesn't know that she saw the body?
No. He doesn't know. She doesn't say. She doesn't scream. She doesn't tell anyone or do anything at this point. She's just trying to get to the front, get her purse and get to the front door.
I thought this was like some sort of Machiavellian move on his part. Like, this is the crescendo of him fucking with her.
Right.
And him locking her in the basement with the body he murdered.
And then,
to
like-
let her sit and stew before he murders her.
Right. And she's like, "Marge knows I'm here. Josh knows I'm here. He can't murder me." And then she's like, "I need to leave." So she goes and gets her keys and there's a knock on the door. And he's like, "What's going on?" And he goes and they both look out the front window and cop lights are flashing. And the cops are at the front door. And she's like, "Oh, thank God, there's a dead body in the basement." And they're like, "You're under arrest."
Why were there cops there?
They got an anonymous tip that
From
Kelly
the dead
was...
body?
She literally hadn't had time to call 911 or even leave the house. And there's cops there. They go downstairs, see the body, and arrest him immediately.
What? Who the fuck called the police?
We don't know. It was an anonymous tip.
What?
Someone had seen Kelly go to his house and called it in.
What happens next?
Brooke explains to Josh that Tim hurt someone really bad and he's going to go to prison. And Josh cries because he loves Tim. And Brooke is just like, meh. She does not have the emotional reaction that I would have if my boyfriend ended up being a murderer.
Well, yeah, he's not right in front of her. He doesn't exist anymore to her. He's not real.
And so she goes to the police and recants her testimony from the trial and says, "I got it wrong. It must have been Tim who tried to kill me, not Shane."
Oh, sorry about that, guys. I just accidentally committed perjury, actually.
And she even thinks, "Oh, I hope I don't get in trouble. Oh, they weren't upset, so it was fine." And instead, they release Shane in 2 months.
That feels really fast. I don't know that
I
would
don't
actually
think
happen that
I don't
fast.
think that would happen at all
Yeah.
from her recanting testimony.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have to relitigate the trial.
Well, and here's the thing. The murder of Tracy Gifford is completely separate from the murders that happened that night.
Yeah.
Is completely separate from the murder of Kelly.
Right.
It is only Brooke who is making them all synonymous, and they must have been done by the same person.
Right, just
That's
because...
only in her head.
Yeah, just because Tim is a murderer now doesn't mean that Shane wasn't a murderer back then.
Right. Those are completely different things.
At least necessarily. Like, you would have to go through the line of evidence to actually make a case for all these things.
And I just really doubt that their only evidence was her say-so.
Right.
In a he said, she said, back and forth.
Yeah, I don't think... I'm like, if there's a jury or anything like that, I don't think that they would be completely swayed by just one eyewitness account.
And she never saw his face.
Right.
She felt their body upon her back. She elbowed them and escaped. She never saw who was on the floor. She never saw what else was going on.
Yeah, so an inconclusive eyewitness account.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you how that was the linchpin of the case.
I don't either. And it's so unbelievable.
Yeah. So is that the end, or?
Brooke learns that Tim was stalking Kelly for like the last 2 months. And this part I really don't understand. Mm-hmm. And this is where it kind of goes off the rails. Brooke goes and picks up Shane from prison because he's now released because she changed her testimony. And she takes him home to stay with her and live with her.
I feel like you have to reestablish the relationship before you do. You don't just move in.
Aren't halfway houses a thing? We don't have a parole officer involved.
Yeah,
they literally let him out onto the street with nary a goodbye. Yeah. It's really odd.
That is really weird.
She drives him home and is like so excited that Josh is going to get to meet his father. This is the thing. He's going to get to meet his father. But we're not going to tell him. We're not telling Josh that Shane is his dad. And we don't want Shane to tell him. We just expect him to know through magic. And treat him with respect and love.
That's a fucked up thing to do with a kid.
Yeah. I don't understand why you wouldn't tell him.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we don't want him to know his dad was in prison for murder. But he's going to find out eventually.
Right.
She just does the same thing that she did at the beginning with Tim and Shane of, I have a 5-year-old. Because I don't want to deal with this right now.
I think what it is, I feel like that's just laziness on the author's part. Because instead of actually going through all the necessary stuff, it's just easier to do a lie and just not deal with those things.
Shane tries, really hard to connect with him. But Josh is just kind of, indifferent. Kind of like, yeah. You're fine. Tim was actively really good with him because he was a teacher and a principal.
Right.
He had worked with kids. He'd had training on how to work with children. Yeah. And a lot of practice. And was a sweet guy.
Yeah.
All along the time. Whereas Shane is trying to push it and be like, let's play. Let's be friends. Hi, buddy. And Josh is like, I don't know about that.
You got some prison aggressiveness going on that I'm a 10-year-old and don't know how to deal with.
Brooke is apologizing and all guilty for all by herself incarcerating the wrong man. And Shane rubs it in her face and is like, yeah, you did this to me.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I missed out on so much. She's like, I'm so sorry.
Whoa.
And he's like, I missed out on time with my son.
Jeez.
He is coming in hard and aggressive.
They still shouldn't be in a relationship together.
No.
They shouldn't be moved in, for sure.
They're not a couple. She's like, he's going to stay here for a while until he finds a new place to live. And I'm like, wouldn't he be in a halfway house? Wouldn't he have some other kind of support?
Right.
What is this? There's no reason he had to be in her house.
Yeah, that's weird.
We're not telling Josh, but he's being really possessive.
Yeah. That's true. That's a lot.
Put Josh to bed, and she sees him looking at her with lust and feels like you wouldn't keep water from a man dying of thirst.
Ew!
And has sex with him. Because he was prevented from having sex with a woman for 10 years because of her.
I mean, that's the best kind of sex, is the sex you're obligated to have.
It was over quickly. And he went off to his own bedroom.
Cool. Who is this for?
God. I got so mad.
That's so weird.
We have not established that you guys are even dating.
Yeah.
You had seen him as a nurse in the prison 4 times. Stitches out, in the infirmary, and ribs. 4 single conversations.
That's icky.
And he came out expecting some, and she just gave it to him. And felt pity. It was a pity fuck. Good dude.
This is gross. I hate
so
that.
So gross.
Honestly, should have stuck with the serial killer.
Yeah, he was nice.
As far as we know, he wasn't going to murder her.
She wakes up in the middle of the night hearing something, and she feels like it was the garage door. And she goes and stands outside his bedroom and doesn't hear anything. And she's like, did someone take my car? No, I'm not going to check it. I'm going to go back to bed.
Okay.
She actively talks herself out of checking to see if her car has snow on it.
I mean, she's consistent. She doesn't
She just
want to
goes
know
back to bed.
things.
The next day, Shane makes them pancakes because he's still trying to impress Josh. And he just decides, we're going to go to my farmhouse and clean it up so I can move in. And she's like, I'm not going there. I don't want to go to the place where
All
my
my friends
died.
got murdered, yeah.
And she's like, you want to live there? And he says, well, my mom left it to me. Where else am I going to live? Brooke,
I mean, that's
the person who stuck me in
you
prison.
stupid bitch. God damn it. I can't do that again. I can't get started on that one again.
She has a really strong negative reaction to the idea of driving him and dropping him off. And he's like, hey, Josh, let's go. Come with me, bud, and check out my old house.
Why is this still going? Is
My question exactly at this point in the book.
Like, this should have,
That should have
tied
been
things
the
up
end.
in a bow right after
You
Tim
let
got...
Shane out. They offer to have coffee at some point. Shane goes to the halfway house.
Yeah,
And you're ending.
sure.
That's the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice, tiny little boat. The story's over.
Yes.
What is this?
And she's just like not willing to say no to him for anything.
This is so uncomfortable.
It really is.
I hate this.
She goes and gets the cleaning supplies. She goes to grab her keys, and they're not where they're supposed to be. They're on a different shelf. And she's like, my keys are in the wrong place, and I thought I heard someone open the garage door last night. Oh, must be nothing.
What the fuck?
So they go out to the farmhouse, and instead of her dropping Shane off, Shane is like, hey, Josh, want to come check out this hot house? And she's like, it looks like a haunted, or no, Josh says, it looks like a haunted house. And Shane's like, yeah, it kind of is. Let's go.
Fucked up joke to make. Yep.
They go inside. Brooke does most of the cleaning.
Are
And
there
Shane,
bloodstains still there? What's going on?
it's been abandoned for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just full of cobwebs and dirt. And
Okay,
they
I
find
thought,
a
like,
rat's
her-
carcass.
I
and,
thought their
like,
friend's guts were still on the
No,
on the
I
bed
don't
sheets or something.
understand. Also, they talk about how decrepit it is and how much work it'll take. And I'm like, steam mopping these floors is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's been abandoned for all these years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. She's cleaning, and Shane decides to take Josh off into the woods for a walk and go build a snowman.
Not okay.
And she's like, I don't want you to get cold. I don't want you to go. And he's like, I missed out on so much. I'm going to build a
oh
snowman
my
with
god.
my kid.
He's going to use that for fucking
Yes.
everything.
Anytime he wants anything, he's going to get
Jesus
it.
Christ.
And she's giving in.
Yeah.
She doesn't even argue and say, this is my son.
You can't
I'm doing
have a
this."
relationship with this man.
No.
He is manipulating
He is
you.
manipulative.
So what
and
the hell would he
dangerous.
have been doing with the car?
Even if he's innocent of the original murders,
Yeah.
he has been shown to be violent in other ways.
Right.
I would not trust him with my son without proof that he is a safe person to be with.
Right.
10 years in prison is going to leave its mark on you.
So what did he do? Did he go out and dig a grave out in the woods in the middle of the night, and now he's got him back out here to this farmhouse and he's going to murder the mom and the kid?
She opens her phone to look at the news, and Marcus Hunt has been murdered. The correctional
right.
officer who was beating him up last night.
So
Breaking news,
Shane
Marcus Hunt. So Shane must have taken her car,
murdered
the correctional officer, and now he has her son.
Yeah.
And we are having a flashback memory unlocked this
God
time.
damn it.
We're changing it again.
How? Why?
Well,
Were they both the murderer?
Yes.
Sure.
While she was being strangled, Chelsea was upstairs screaming. And it was Shane on top of her, which means Tim must have been the one killing Chelsea while Shane was killing her.
Well, it's this stupid, unreliable narrator shit. It's... It's not letting us know that events are happening at the same time. Because if we had known earlier that the screaming was happening at the same time she was being choked out, obviously more than one person is going on here. So yeah, I see why they had to hide that.
Yeah.
Until
She remembers that Tim and Shane were having a whisper conversation at the beginning of the party, even though they hated each other's guts. And so it's like they must have been planning it all along, and they must have both killed Tracy Gifford. Only Tim must have been the one who lost his cool and killed Kelly now. But Shane is also guilty of stuff, and so she panic. Murderer has my son.
Right.
And going back through the book, there's multiple times where it couldn't have been Tim, and multiple times it couldn't have been Shane.
Right.
It couldn't have been Shane when she was sleeping in his arms, and then we wake up and Brandon is dead.
Sure.
There was times when it couldn't have been Shane, or it couldn't have been Tim, because Shane was in the room with them when someone else got killed. So that explains that.
Yeah, okay. I'm back on board a little bit. That sounds like it's done a little better then.
Yeah. So she calls Shane and is like, please bring Josh back. And he psychically knows she's figured all this out, and he just becomes straight up malevolent.
I mean, he's been acting very suspicious.
Right. But now he says, I missed out on all these years, and now you are going to now as well. And he's like telling her he's going to kidnap Josh and run off with him. He ends the call, and she tries to call 911, but she doesn't have cell service. She only had cell service to talk to Shane that one time. She thinks to herself how coincidental it was that her cell service dropped after her phone call with him, and wonders if he has a jammer to prevent cell calls from going through.
How would he have a jammer? He just got out of prison.
He got out of prison yesterday afternoon.
Right. Where the fuck did he get a jammer?
And why is she trying to give him these weird cell phone powers when it's just they live out in the middle of nowhere and don't have cell service? They didn't have cell service the original night, which was part of the plot.
Yeah. Maybe he had a jammer in the farmhouse and he just got it again and it still works.
It still works only at the house. She rushes to get her keys because the car's not gone.
Right.
And the keys are no longer in her jacket, and she sprains her ankle on the way down the stairs.
You fuck. I hate serial killer movie. Yeah.
I hate it.
The girl protagonist has always got to be a fucking klutz.
And break her ankle. She limps down the road because she doesn't know where they went. They went off into the woods, and he stole her keys. So she can't drive to find them. And so she's going up the road, and there's a car. It's Margie, the babysitter.
Deus Ex babysitter.
And she's like, oh, thank God you're here. You can drive me to town. I don't have cell service. We can call 911. And she's like, oh my gosh, what happened to your ankle? And she's like, that doesn't matter. My son is kidnapped. Shane is a murderer. Ah, it was Shane and Tim all along.
Is Margie one of their moms?
She's Shane's mom.
Fuck.
And she's the mastermind of it all.
Why?
All of it.
Why?
Everything that has happened in the story is because of Marge.
What is to be gained? For why? That doesn't...
She pulls a gun on Brooke and does a villain monologue.
Oh, God damn it. God damn it.
It was she who framed Tim and killed Kelly and hid her in the basement of Tim's house.
How did she know they were both going to be serial killers?
She says, Tim was innocent. It was me and Shane.
So Tim just happened to be a serial killer later in life.
No, he never killed anyone. He was actually innocent the whole time. I was lying to you.
Oh,
the book was lying to you. And I went with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
no, this is when we reveal Tim was actually a decent guy all along.
I'm with this. That's kind of... It's still stupid.
No, it's worse.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right, so she murdered somebody.
She murdered Kelly and stuck her in Tim's basement.
Okay.
And called the cops when she knew that they would be there.
That makes sense. It still doesn't make sense why Brooke didn't question that at all or think it was weird.
So that's what ties up that knot. Shane killed Tracy Gifford, and she helped hide the body and keep Shane from getting discovered or whatever. She helped Shane kill all of those teenagers that night.
Oh.
Because all along she wanted to kill Brooke.
Why?
Because Brooke's dad had an affair with her and wouldn't divorce his family and marry her instead. That is the motivation for all of this.
Oh my God, that's so stupid.
It is so...
That is impossibly stupid.
So stupid.
What?
Pamela Nelson, Shane's mom, who has been Margie, the sweet grandma babysitter, the whole book.
Yeah.
Back when they were little kids, had an affair with Brooke's dad. He said, oh, I'll leave my family and be with you, and changed his mind and left her instead. And this is why, as teenagers, she told Shane to have a relationship with Brooke, to choreograph this sleepover to murder Brooke. And all of these other people were there just to be the accidental murders along the way.
Uh-huh. Here, son, get in a relationship with this girl, and then when you go to prison for 10 years, I'll be your son's babysitter, and then I can implicate someone else to be the murderer from the night that you... that I murdered.
She also killed Brooke's parents in the car accident so that Brooke would have to come back to town.
I mean, they had it coming. So.
And the reason she did that is she saw a picture of Brooke with Josh on a social media post of a company's picnic or something. Somebody else took the picture, somebody else posted it, but she somehow saw it and knew that was Brooke and Brooke's son, which is why she had to murder Brooke's parents to make Brooke and the grandson come back so she could have a relationship with them.
Okay, but via what spell did her parents know that that was a possibility and tell her not to have social media?
They knew that Shane's mom was a psycho. Didn't want her to know that Brooke had a kid and that she was a grandma. And that was why she was never allowed to come home, never allowed to be in town, never allowed to be on social media, was so Shane's mom, who has done nothing in the story anyone actually knows about, we must prevent her from getting this information. All she did was have sex with Brooke's dad and want to have a actual relationship, like a marriage,
right.
And he dumped her and said no. That was all that happened. But this is the motivation for the whole book. She even called every medical clinic within 60 minutes drive and said, don't hire Brooke, she's evil, and prevented her from getting the job except for the one at the prison. And Shane got the previous nurse practitioner fired so that she would have to get that job, because that's how the real world works.
But why though?
She also sold Tim the snowflake
parents are
necklace.
Dead. How much more revenge do you need? It doesn't.
The only reason Brooke didn't die is because she ran away. And what actually happened is Shane did stab Tim, and Tim swung the baseball bat at Shane, which knocked him out, which is how Brooke escaped.
Ah, yes, the perfect defense.
Yes.
Baseball bats.
Yes.
As we know.
He got stabbed and then he swung?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here on this podcast, we advocate Louisville Slugger as the number one self-defense weapon from getting stabbed by someone's crazy fucking serial killer.
I hate
so
this.
Fucking dumb.
If we had ended right before Shane got out of prison, we didn't need any of the rest of this. No. And so Marge is standing there cackling, evil monologuing, and they hear a loud noise. And so Brooke is able to tackle her and get the gun, and the gun goes off and it shoots Marge.
What was the loud noise? Is it just a random loud noise?
It was a loud noise. Hold on, you'll find out.
Okay.
Brooke limps into the woods and finds Josh, who's crying. And she's like, oh my God, what did he do to you? And he says, icicles fell out of the tree and hit Josh.
What?
And hit Shane.
No.
And she goes in and she finds Shane and he's dead under a pile of icicles that fell out of a tree.
Fucking what? Oh my god,
We're safe. Yay, it's the end of the story. Pamela survived and was able to give her entire confession to the police because now that her son is dead, she doesn't care and told all.
Yeah, that unending urge for revenge on someone's dad stopped mattering as soon as your son died. What? Mm-hmm. What? Mm-hmm. Jesus
This
Christ.
is why this book is on this podcast. I was fine with up to Shane getting out of prison.
Right.
I would have just been like, nah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. I got to this and I was furious. Mm-hmm. This made me so angry.
Yeah. God,
Tim is now released because Marge with Pamela confessed to killing Kelly. And
why would she do that?
everyone is really mad at Brooke for not believing Tim and thinking that the dead body meant he was actually the killer. And he's really mad at her and she begs his forgiveness.
Oh my god.
And he's like, well...
He's like, I missed out on 2 weeks of my life, so you'd better have sex with me now.
2 months. And he would have just been in jail while waiting trial.
Right.
He could have been out on bail, honestly. Like, sometimes people who have even done stuff like that, like, if there's not enough strong evidence, like, I don't know.
Or if they're not, like, a flight risk or something like that, sure.
Right. She goes to his front porch and is like, I'm so sorry, but please spend time with Josh. My son loves you and misses you. I'll even leave the house so you can be with him. And he's like, oh, I'll come out and hang out with you sometimes. And she's like, oh, good. He doesn't hate me.
The end?
Epilogue.
God damn it.
We are now Josh's point of view.
Oh,
10-year-old
God.
kid, and this is months later. Josh is happy because Mom and Tim are together again and in a relationship.
Is Josh going to be a serial killer now?
He loved Tim and is happy and everything's great.
Okay.
He remembers back to when he first met Tim. Tim saying, a man named Shane Nelson might contact your family. And if he does, you need to be careful because he's going to try to hurt your mom. So when Shane Nelson got out of prison, he didn't trust him.
Okay.
And then he heard him talking mean on the phone to his mom. Uh-huh. So he shook the tree to cause the icicles to fall on his dad. And that didn't kill Shane. So he went and found an icicle the size of a baseball bat and used that to beat Shane on the head until he died.
Here on BiblioWrecks, we also advocate the use of icicle baseball bats to kill your dad. What? This 10-year-old beat a man's brains
out with a baseball bat. And the loud noise was the tree icicles falling on Shane. I would imagine there'd be a lot of evidence of blunt force trauma, unlike what a pile of icicles would look like on a dead body. But moving on, that is the end. And I think that was just he was his son's father? No, he was his father's son. He had a genetic predisposition to being a murderer. Because all along the book, she had been like, I've watched him really closely for sociopathic tendencies. I would know if my son was a murderer. And now we're gaslighting her retroactively and saying, you didn't know your son killed his dad.
So it doesn't matter what this woman does, she's a piece of shit. Like, I get it, she's dumb.
Yeah.
But this stuff isn't really her fault.
And all of this was done to her by Marge.
Right.
And Tim was just innocent, and she just doubted him because of Shane.
And there was a dead body in his fucking house. I would have thought he was a fucking murderer, too.
I told Amy, if you see a dead body in someone's basement, believe the evidence, not what he tries to say to you.
Right. Jeez.
Call the cops. And she didn't even call the cops. That's the other thing. They acted like she put him in prison over Kelly's body. She just tried to leave. And then she told the cops,
she didn't call the
there's
cops.
a body in the basement.
Right.
That was the huge betrayal that she did.
Perfectly reasonable.
For disbelieving Tim that he was innocent by believing the body in the basement. She was shown, and that was the only time that she is like, everyone is blaming her for this. Mm-hmm. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
The ending made me so angry.
Yeah. This story genuinely sucks. I genuinely wasn't expecting the second twist for
Marge.
Tim to not, or also
Tim
Marge.
not.
Yeah, Tim not being the serial killer, and then super wasn't expecting Marge at all.
Me neither. But also, second read through, no hints.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she planned it. I think she went back and just tried to shove it in. We are just going
just
to
at every
shove
turn,
this
like
in.
once she got to a certain point, she was just like, "Where can I insert a twist?
Yes.
How can I make this work?"
This book was
somewhat
only
reasonably?
plot. There was only plot.
Mm-hmm.
No world building, no character building.
No setup.
No setup. We had 3 details that
Mm-hmm.
mattered. Sandalwood aftershave, a snowflake necklace. Oh, what was the third one? I don't even know if there was a third one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. But, like, literally, you expect some details to, like, matter in a thriller or a
Right.
mystery. Because that's what gives you a clue.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Tim was just a good guy.
Yeah.
And I can understand thinking this is too good to be true. Someone who is manipulative or abusive can put on a good face, and then it slips.
Okay, but why was he acting so weird about Kelly then?
I think that they try... If you go back in time, back to that night around Tracy Gifford, it was he's ashamed to date someone who then died. And that's attributed to him permanently.
Oh my god, I forgot about that! Oh god, that's so dumb.
He acted suspicious for no reason.
He's like, oh god, another girlfriend dead.
Yeah, he's just embarrassed.
That's the weirdest thing to get called out for. Oh my god. Okay. So.
I mean, not the worst. This was published.
Yeah.
This is a mainstream author who's had a best-selling book.
Mm-hmm.
This is a mainstream thriller. It got some bad reviews online, but
It could
other
be
people
better.
liked it. It could be better.
Yeah.
Honestly, until that last few chapters, I was fine with it. I would have never done it on here. It was Margie pulling a gun and doing an evil villain monologue that sent me over the edge.
Yeah, that's fucking dumb. Yeah. What grade would you give this one?
I mean, it's not Devouring Milo.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a C+.
Yeah, I was gonna say C+, B-.
Yeah, like honestly, as far as a quick thriller, it was 8 hours. It was snappy, kept moving. It was just those last couple of twists. I was just like, but it was fun. And I would probably read a couple of the author's other stuff to see if it was any better. Because I have heard this was one of the worst ones when I was reading these different reviews. So it's like, oh, if she does it better in a different one, that might be fun.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we don't add extraneous multiple twists for no reason.
Just kept laying on the twists.
It was like, you know how someone will slightly twist off the salt shaker lid, and she was just trying to do a little shake of plot twist, and the lid fell. It was like, oh damn. And like the things with Marcus Hunt never mattered. The blackmail with Dorothy never mattered. She never got in trouble for working here.
That's fucking weird.
You know, it's just, I don't know why we needed any of that.
Yeah, that is strange.
Okay. Follow us on Blue Sky, bugs@BiblioWrecks.podcast. And you can email us at BiblioWrecks@gmail.com if you have suggestions. And we are going to catch you next time.
And buy a baseball bat.
Buy a giant icicle.
Yeah. And hate your dad. Hate your dad until he dies.
Oh my god. And if you see a dead body, believe the dead body.
Yeah. Call the police.
Call the police.
Uh,
Bye.
Bye.